Hello. Testing. Sounds good to me. No need to ask. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the desktop. Hello, into the top. Good. So I'll be here for about 55 minutes. My name is Steve. I can help with trade ideas, or we can talk about the market. We can talk about what I'm doing. We can talk about what you are doing. It doesn't matter to me. Do I still use my A-table scan? Hello, perfect circle. Um, kind of. I use it. Let's see here. Is that right? It's this one right here. This is essentially a tree map, but if we turn the tree map off, it's nothing more than the A table, but it's no longer an A table because we're in a bad market. So when it was the A table, I used to use this stock composite rating and set that to like 80 or 90 for the A students. That also had a short of 20%. So it's a good example of how the markets evolve and how scans and trading can evolve. It has evolved, and it's also evolved into the tree map. So we've got this tree map here, which is showing us the heat of the day and things that are strong or not strong, but they all have the same thing in common. I don't know how a short float of 300%. Anything 20% or bigger. So this T-Tech holding is interesting. It rallied 5 days ago and now it's pulled back, but look how it's holding on here intraday. 22% short. So I want to also say, I don't have a B table. No, we would just downshift the stock composite rating to something like 80%. Thus, the grading curve in a college, 80s, Bs, 90s, or As. That's how I came up with that concept. But that was during a time when the market was a bull market running to highs. And I wanted to find a scan for things that were running to highs, but were also heavily shorted. So those were just ripe, super ripe for short squeezes. Different story today. As we look at the market, we all know the headlines. It's been a crazy market the last couple months, but especially last week. We did gap up today. Kind of thought there'd be some more chasing of longs, but there wasn't. So we pulled back. And the big note to me is that we're kind of below this moving average here, this momentum line. And sometimes, in a volatile market, this can get sloppy. What I'm noticing maybe more so of is just the lows of today, kind of these highs of yesterday. So this is a price level here I'm watching in the NASDAQ. I'll be happy to tell you what I did yesterday. Let's just back up into the weekend, right? I spoke to my neighbor. My neighbor said, "Oh God, I was at the gym and all I could hear were the murmurs of people freaking out about tariffs and crash." And Jim Cramer says the market's going to Black Monday on us and crash. I've been around long enough to know that when that's the discussion in the cab or the Uber or the gym and people are that freaked out, and then you'll see like a big bear market on the cover of magazines. The old veteran traders will all tell you the same thing. That's usually a tipping point or a reversal point. So coming into Monday, I kind of felt like the fear was probably reaching a crescendo and that we would see some additional selling on Monday, but just maybe we could get a reversal on Monday. And so what I did is I had a wish list of names and I set price targets. I started setting price targets lower. I'll be happy to go through some of them with you. Yesterday I picked up, and mind you, look at the cues here yesterday. I'll highlight this. There's our opening 15-minute candle, right? We were red, and then we turned green right here. This was go time for me yesterday. So pretty much everything that I bought that I still have. I've had to sell a couple because they're not performing. I picked up at a really good price yesterday because I was kind of waiting for it. And I told myself, no matter what happens, you can just small size. And Andy and I were both doing this. We were just nibbling 1/5, 1/5, 1/5. That's working. Okay, let's add another fifth. And by, an hour into the day, I had a little portfolio going. And the concept for this portfolio is to try and see if I can hold on for a couple of days because we are in an oversold condition. Now, I had to sell Tesla, which I had last week. I went skiing. It was a great time. Yesterday, what did I notice? I noticed that the algorithms took it below this low, and immediately that's when the market started to turn. I bought some Tesla yesterday down near lows. And I did add to those kind of throughout the first half an hour. So basically, I've got, let's see here, I would call these all maybe 2/3 size now. They've kind of evolved into a 2/3 normal size position because if the market does bounce, I want to hold on for a couple of days and catch an oversold rally. Again, here's the S&P. We could easily have a healthy bounce right up here back into 550. And that's all I want. That's all I want out of these names. Sorry if my throat is a bit dry. So again, these were names over the weekend that I said I've been watching, and I'd like to go shopping if I can get some of these names. Tesla was one. BBAI was another one. Strongest one I pretty much had. It's given some back today, but I like BBAI. I'm in that. I did buy some DJT, just, I don't know, for the heck of it. I don't know why. I have no reason. I just wanted to be in it. Kodak, I've been talking a lot about Kodak, and there's a story behind this, right? So the story is, okay, tariffs, forcing companies and manufacturers and factories to come back to the U.S. and build here to avoid the tariffs. That's the positive spin, is that companies that don't negotiate will just say, screw it, we'll just build a factory in Oklahoma. And then they avoid the tariffs. Well, Kodak is a interesting company. It's been around forever, and it's pretty much seen its retirees and its pensioners live out, their life. And so they've got this giant balance sheet. I don't know if I have it on here. Cash debt ratio is good. Cash, well, as I understand it, they're ready to go. They're cracking their knuckles and they're just kind of waiting for their orders. You guys remember during COVID when we didn't have penicillin and antibiotics and chlorine and all the essential little things we need that we offshored. This is all kind of coming home to roost now with this whole tariff discussion. Do we really want to be in a position where other countries will hoard essential chemicals before they ship them to us? Well, Kodak is just waiting, I think, for some orders or a reason to start turning back on their production line. And that's one of the reasons I'm in Kodak. Will the chart confirm the story? No, not in any of these. They're all underwater. I'm just trying to see if I can get a bounce out of them. Next up is Love. So I spent last week with Brian Shannon skiing, and he was doing some deep dive ChatGPT and other AI stuff on fundamental analysis, believe it or not. And he asked, basically this new baggage fee that Southwest is dropping on people. If you had to quantify it, how will it show up in the earnings? And it said it's going to add like $2 to earnings over the year. And so that was a pretty good attention getter. The problem is all of that happened while the market was just falling out of bed. So I feel like there's a bright future for Love and Southwest in their new business model. And maybe this is something that could really, get back up to 30 quickly. So I'm trying to hold on to this one. Trying to make the best of what I can with the decent entries I got yesterday. I also want to diversify a little bit. So I wanted an AI stock other than BBAI. And both of those are looking the same this morning. They're both just getting sold off here. So that's noted. For some of you that know, I don't like to just clear the decks midday. I want to see how these positions are going to close. So I'm willing to just let the market breathe back and forth. And trust me, it's been doing some breathing on my P&L. But it's so oversold that I feel like I've got to really give it, some back and forth as the bulls and the bears battle it out down here. A couple more that I'm still holding. Oklo, I wanted to get exposure into those nano nukes. Great. Again, these are great prices I got yesterday. I'd like to see this thing hold the 5-day moving average here. Now, I failed to mention before I came on here live, this is tricky with all these positions and having to host this. So I've got stops in a lot of things. Everything you're seeing, I'm showing you, I've pretty much got a hard stop in now. And if the market rolls over and we get a bad headline and I'm caught on my heels here live with you guys, I don't have to fumble around. But that's my worst case scenario. If this market can hold, I want to try and give it a chance into the close. Rum's the trade of the week. I've got that. Got to eat my own dog food, but it's also pulling back. And again, I've got to stop down here somewhere in case the market just goes to shit. Qubits, the last one. I've got some qubits. I wanted to get some exposure to the quants. And again, I'm just going to let this morning, this first half of the day here, kind of digest and see if I can maybe get some strength into the final couple hours. And if I can, then I'll be rewarded handsomely. If not, the stops that I've been telling you I've been putting in, it's kind of basically a free look. I was able to give myself a free look. As I said, a lot of my entries are down in here on these names, adding yesterday. So that's why I've got stops down here for kind of flat in all of them. So I've got myself a free look. I'm either going to make a good chunk or I'm just going to be right back to where I was Monday morning. But I had to try. So that's kind of a quick look through my portfolio. I don't know if anybody else, I got some silver too in the form of PSLV, but I'm underwater in this one because I bought too early before the weekend, right around here. Perfect Circle, do you think this was just a panic sell overreaction to the start of a downtrend? Well, technically speaking, it's the start of a broken market. All of these names are now underwater. They're on the other side of the mountain. No matter how much they want to bounce, they're going to run into major, major overhead resistance. And so that's why I was saying this little portfolio I've built here, I'll sell half of it real quick the minute it gets out of its oversold position up into these moving averages. Primarily on the daily chart or the intraday. The 5-day will be some supply at that. Using this as an example, I can put up let's see what else is. So Tesla, if Tesla reverses, there's going to be some supply at the 5-day, and then there'll be some supply here and some supply here. This is a giant wall of bearish overhead resistance. So to answer your question, if we listen to the technicals, the current has reversed on us. So the current is changed. Take that with how you want. What I'm telling you is I'm using that as a short-term opportunity to maybe play some bounces here. I am by no means saying I'm putting these in my back pocket for the grandchildren. That's right. That's Brian Shannon, guilty until proven innocent now. Where last year in the fourth quarter, quants and nanotech and AI, those were all innocent until proven guilty, meaning if they pulled back and broke their trend line or key moving averages, then they all of us, which we did. So now we're on the other side of the mountain. And Perfect Circle says, we're guilty until proven innocent. So you've got to keep that in mind. The current has literally shifted. You can't just expect to buy a pullback here and say, great, I got, the generational low. Although I do kind of think Tesla is a pretty good deal down here, but what do I know? There's a lot of money out there that's being pushed around that has ideas as well. The retail money was scared over the weekend for sure, but was the hedge fund money or the big guy money, the Warren Buffett type stuff? I heard there were some rumors, not true, that he was saying things, so I won't even get into that. I don't know if it's true, but is there a faction of money managers, Paul Tudor Jones? I'm just throwing names out there. Are they starting to look at the possibility or the new paradigm of the global changes that are coming and saying, maybe the sell-off is enough? We won't really know, Perfect Circle, until the technicals prove us right or wrong or early. So that's why I like technicals, because Anybody can have a story. Anybody can have an opinion. We can look at numbers. But the most important thing is, what does the crowd think? And that's why technical analysis is the footprints in the sand. It's the crowd telling us the real story. We just got to learn to read it. So in the moment as we're speaking here, obviously I don't like the fact I said earlier that we lost my 10 SMA in a strong market where people were buying and salivating to chase and not let stuff get away. They'd be buying, but they're not. So we're still grinding back and forth. Got to kind of throw that moving average out for the moment because, like I said, it looks like, what's this level here? Call it 434. Let's see if I can reset that. That's too close. I want to put in the bottom of that wick. So 433.60. If we look left, it kind of corresponds to, a couple of candles. We call this a pivot point. So I'd like to see this level hold. It's quite possible that I'm completely wrong and we're just going to bleed down lower. And like I said, I've already got my plan in place. I'm pulling the ripcord on, stops will probably start triggering for me if we start getting down into this area. I have a couple accounts with Schwab. Schwab's the primary account. Near the top. It's not automated. It's not connected. It's just all. I've been on Street Smart Edge forever, but I guess they're taking it away from me in May. So I'll have to learn to use Thinkorswim. I don't mind learning new things. I just wait till I'm forced to do it. What do you like most about Thinkorswim? Yeah, perfect circle. You're right. Those levels not only stay in people's mind and their eyes, but they stay in the computer brains. So those computer models know exactly where those levels are, and we're starting to break down here a little bit. So maybe the sellers are going to get control here today. Who knows? You like the level 2 trading? Okay. Yeah, I use the interface too here. I use Street Smart Edge, and it's got level 2, and I can quickly sell all stops, good till cancel, pre-market, click the levels, load the levels. I'm sure I'll adapt to Thinkorswim quickly. Yeah, it's a bummer. My P&L started off really well this morning, but as you can see, just by the spies and the Qs, the sellers are taking advantage of this to sell more stock. Now, I could do one of two things here. I could just say, screw it, I'm wrong. Let me get out before my P&L drains too much. Well, I've got profits from yesterday as well. But as I told you before I came live, I feel it was wise for me to put in some stops. So this hour of trading, or this remaining 40 minutes of live session, just could be stops starting to trigger left and right to protect me from going negative, coming into the week. Like I said, my plan wasn't to come in here and scalp. My plan was to try and see if this was going to be, in fact, an oversold market situation and, buy some things. So yesterday closed nicely. Today's gap was lovely. In hindsight, which is always perfectly easy to understand, I should have sold the opening gap, but I didn't do that because that wasn't my plan. I wanted to stick around and see if people were going to chase prices higher. So we're breaking down here through these pivot levels. I've already drawn that. So score 1 for the sellers here. Looks like we're under pressure. We'll see, if the buyers have any desire to want to step in. Odds are probably going to say they're not. The odds are that my stop orders are probably going to start tripping. But like I said, it's, just eating into yesterday's profits now at this point. You might say, why don't you just cancel all your stop orders and just hit market sell basket? because I know the trading gods and they hate me and they spite me and they would love for me to do that just so they could reverse bounce the market 2 minutes afterwards and laugh. So I'm not going to give the trading gods that opportunity. But I'm definitely admitting that I'm now behind the eight ball. Again, good news is I've defined my risk. I told you guys many times I will not put stops in on the open, because stops on the open are really what the stops on the open are what the algorithms hunt. They love hunting the stops on the open because that's where the liquidity is. So they know they can drive people that did their homework last night and then they're driving to work today. And everybody sees the same thing in the same charts. You just throw that out the window if that's the way you learned. The algorithms in the first half an hour will drive the price down to where the liquidity is, meaning triggering sell stops. And so that's where you can get deals done. And that's what market makers do. And that's what quants and algorithms do, like Citadel. That's why you have free commissions, because your broker sold your orders. And they have all those orders. So the first half an hour, I refuse to give up my stops in a market frenzy liquidity hunt. However, as I told you, midday now, I'm fine and happy to do what stops are intended to do, which is to stop the loss. And I've defined my loss. So I know I could get up and go hit a bucket of balls right now, and I don't even have to worry, because if the market bounces, I win. If the stops trigger, I stop losing money, and I basically protect most, if not hardly much, of yesterday's profits. And like I said, I'm back to square one of where I was on Monday morning. But over the weekend, I saw an opportunity that I wanted to take. If anybody plays golf, the trading gods and the golf gods, they share the same lease and the same sense of humor. So I look up here at my screen over there, and Tesla is the only thing that's staying solid for the most part today. Everything else has kind of turned red on me, unfortunately, but still green on the open because of yesterday's profits. So I'm just kind of in no man's land here. And I would kick myself for just getting caught up in a thought in the moment and getting mad and getting frustrated and just changing all the stop orders to market orders and click, 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 and get out only to see the market bounce. I've seen it. I'm not going to let it happen. But I'm resolved to the fact that I'm probably on the wrong side of the current now, and I'm just going to have to let these things stop out. Qubits will probably go first. And there goes qubits. Okay, so starting to just take my lumps, pick my paper cuts. The lesson here is the risk management. If I sat here and said, no, these 10 things that I bought, bullshit, these are going higher, I'm going to go have breakfast. And when I come back, they better be higher. That's just irresponsible. You can't get married to this stuff. You've got to just admit, and you've heard me say many times, once the price really breaks this momentum line, and especially if it can't get back above this 5 SMA, that's usually your cue to get up and sell. And so I admit that. So qubits, we can take that off the screen. The next to trigger is probably going to be rum, which is the trade of the week, which is a real pisser, because this thing was strong going into Friday and strong yesterday. Oh, by the skin of my teeth, they're going to get me. That's okay. That's okay. I'm just defining my risk. Not only that, I'm defining my risk. I'm raising cash for tomorrow. So it's also hard when you've pinned yourself into a corner and you've got no cash or no dry powder to execute against. if I can get away with it. If I can get away with it, I lowered the stop there in rum. Just a hair. Let's just see, because it wasn't that bad. Basically flat. So you can see those basically, these are basically my entries yesterday. So, you know, and if it fails, which it might, all that does is it just hands me another card that says this market is sick. This market is not done selling. So, you know, mental note, don't start jumping back in. Just accept the fact that what the tea leaves are telling me here. What else is going to get stopped out here? Oklo, probably close. Let's see. I'll leave that one in. Wire the controlled emotions. That's, you know, that's what it takes. I wasn't always this way. Probably cracked a bone in my hand once hitting a table. In fact, I know I did. No, I'm not muting them. Nope. I've just learned that you just have to trust your ability to manage when you're wrong. And I feel like I've done that. This is the one stock I don't have a stop in. I'm still up pretty good in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a price alert right about there, that pivot. Why did I put it there? Well, you can see Friday, support, 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 and then yesterday, kind of resistance. So I'm in down here, and I just want to know what it does when it gets here. Will it respect that pivot and bounce, or will it bleed through and then I'll stop out? But is it frustrating to see the giant green P&L I had on the open disappear and turn red? Yeah, it's frustrating, but I'm just sticking to my plan. So, and honestly, there's probably more that you guys can get out of this than anything than me sitting here winning. I know that to be the truth because people have told me that. Because we make really bad decisions when we're angry and flustered and emotional. So before I came on here, I just told myself, you're just setting yourself up for, you know, a situation where you can't control. So you have to take control, which meant putting in stops. And I've only been stopped out of one, which was that qubits. Let's see what happens. If you guys have any questions or you fire away, if you have a chart you want me to look at, fire away. Semiconductors. So they were leading the way yesterday early. They were showing a lot of strength early, and they're still hanging in there. So, you know, I'd say for the most part, here they are on my screen right there, and they were leading the way yesterday. Interesting to note, TLT and IEF. So you've heard the story about the bonds. When the markets sell stocks, goes into bonds. So this becomes a case where you want to kind of keep an eye on the bonds. And we're noticing here, they're stuck. Look at this stuck level. They're stuck at this pivot level. Yesterday's support is today's resistance. That's the 7 and 10-year treasury. Go to the 30-year or the 20-year. Yesterday's support is today's resistance. So if we get a giant pop in the bonds and they start money starts popping back into bonds, guess what's going to happen to stocks? They're going to roll back over to lows. So if you like to look at correlations as to, what are people watching? What are the computers watching? This is what they're watching. But we get a clue here, don't we, with this pivot level that we saw in both of those instruments. Major pivot level. And we can see that they're the only thing that are really green on the sector list. Just below that, gold's hanging in there. And the strongest sector is the gold miners. They're not giving much back. No, they're pretty flat. So if the market were to turn, you could look at maybe some gold miners and some financials if you were curious. But I've already made my bed, and I'm just going to sit in what I got. Yes, semiconductors will remain in high demand with AI. That's one of the reasons I like Oklo. How do you power those semiconductors? I think the nano nuke, the modular reactors are going to be the way to go. So you've got Oklo, you've got SMR, and you have NNE. Those are your three players. So if you're hearing me, it's important to know every sector, your semiconductor, who are the players in the semis, well, NVDA and whatnot. It's always good to know 3 or 4 names in each sector. So when you look down, you see, oh, the gold miners are strong. Oh, okay, well, what's Newmont doing? What's ABX doing? And so you always kind of have your go-to players. That's not even stock anymore. AEM, SSRM. Individually, those names are still pretty strong. All right, what's up, Patrick? Yeah, it's interesting that gold took a beating, when crypto was doing well. A beating, I say, in the headlines. Let's see, we're going down again here. Okay. So let's go back to the yeah, they're trying to stick a little turtle head above here in these dead instruments. Oh, well, I gave it the old college try. Unless we reverse off of this wick here and move higher, it'll start to become stop out city for me, just to protect what's left of yesterday's gains. But yeah, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that, and gold was taking a beating in the headlines. Well, all of a sudden, gold's been having the last laugh for a few months now. They used to say money doesn't flow to gold anymore. Well, yeah, it's kind of has been. The real conundrum is what the hell is happening in silver? It just continues to be, in my opinion, the most manipulated, heavily shorted, naked shorted whipping boy that the banks use whenever they feel like it. That's fact. JP Morgan and Bank of America have both been busted, both been fined. They write the big check and they just go back. That's kind of how it's been. Hopefully it stays. What I think about XRP, I'm not touching it. I'm fine with it. I think what's happening is shit. Ripple came out with some news this morning. Go look that news up. Ripple paid like 1.5 billion for a global prime broker. Relatively speaking, XRP is holding up better than all the other cryptos. I think it's just been a perfect scenario, right around $2 today, under $2, for the institutions to have plenty of time to realize this is where we're going, and you better find a way to get some of this on your balance sheet going forward, because this is going to be the guardrail and the cogs and the wheels that grind for digital global commerce, 2, 5, 10 years from now. So I love XRP. It doesn't matter what the price is doing. I'm not adding to it because I was stacking it at 50 cents. So 50 cents is always my basis. If it goes back to 50 cents, I will be heartbroken. and I'll be full of questions, but I'm not selling it. I'm not buying more. I'm just going to let it sit. It's an asset. It's a diversified asset. If I had to put my conspiracy theorist hat on, I think what's happening is, like I said, the banks are in trouble because they're short so much synthetic silver. Feels like this is the one last death rattle that they have to cover. Again, that's full on conspiracy theory. But the fact that it has not held on to gold, the fact that it's been just kicked to the curb for no good reason, it feels completely synthetic and manipulated. I don't mind saying that. But is this their last hurrah, their last party? I don't know. I hope it doesn't go any lower than last Friday's lows. There's just no reason for it. Think of all the technology too. Silver's needed in electronics, solar. It's got a industrial utility to it. A thesis on what did I just lose? AI. Okay, goodbye AI. Um, and thesis, uh, it's going to be a global payment system, a major component of the global payment system. And there's just no two ways around it. There's no other, God darn it, there's no other, I don't want that. How do I turn this off? I forgot how to turn this off. Jeez. This is a new feature. I forgot how to turn this off. Timeline. That's a hard one. You just have to watch the news and watch how they're building out, the global system, which financial institutions are joining, which ones are not. God dang, how do I turn this stupid thing off? God dang it. All right. When in doubt, just shut the whole program down and start up again. My God. Can't believe I don't know how to turn that off. Okay, yeah, I'm just getting left and right. I'm just getting kicked in the head left and right on the stops now because I made a bet and I made my bed and I said I would stay in it and see how I'm just letting them all stop out on me. And it's just as good as I can do. Yeah, it was the trade ticket. I never used that thing. I forgot how to turn it off. Trade ticket. That's what it was. I think I would have seen that. Okay, so yeah, I'm just getting stopped out left and right. Sad. It's sadness for the market. It's not over. Sellers are still in control. And I took a shot. Thank you, Pepe. Again, these are all either small winners or small paper cuts for the most part from yesterday. So, right. Yeah, this is a new build. This is an internal build. It's coming. So check this out, you guys. Now we got configure chat GPT. You don't have this yet, so I don't want to get you too excited, but it's coming. Uh, how do I scan for new lows on high volume? So as you can see, this is just another module from our internal GPT. Okay. So anyway, that's available soon. Not today, but that's coming. All right. Let's see. I think I got to stop out of something else. Yeah, you know what they're all going to look alike. I can tell you what it looks like before I pull it up. Gaps being filled quickly. Everything's correlated right now. All you have to do is pull up the cues, and it's going to look just like your stock does, pretty much. So that's where we are. Still got some stops in these remaining things. So, oh well. Like I said, I gave it the old college try. Um, every chart's like I said, going to look the same, and I don't know what the same. It's just a matter of when does the selling want to stop. We tried to put the brakes on yesterday, but no follow through today. All right, what time is it? 42. So I can be with you guys until 55, 5 minutes to the top of the hour. So if you need help with anything, or you need me to look at a chart, I'll probably tell you it's the same looking chart as we're all looking at right now. It gapped up, and now it's completely failing. So short sellers are licking their chops at the moment. They're probably piling in. Yeah, the selling is intensified. So now we're just about at gap closure here from yesterday. Gosh, that's just so sad that silver cannot get a bounce. But currently, there's nothing working. Except, I bet you, if we look at those treasuries, there it is. See, there it is. There's the money coming back into the bonds, entirely inversely related to money coming into stocks. So money's coming out of stocks quickly, and the computers are throwing it into bonds. So we may be in for another round of selling. And as you see, yes, I've been stopped out of probably half the things that I came in here with. I'm getting to the point now where I'm just actually going to start helping some of these orders along because I don't like what I'm seeing at all. I'm done with you too. I'm pretty much done across the board because price action is so bad. Now, you all can have a good chuckle at the end of the day if that was it. It was just that was the most I wanted to risk. Watch that be the bottom. Watch the market explode back through highs. And that's just how it is sometimes. But I'm more concerned with managing my downside than I am trying to freak out that I might miss a rally of some sort. Still have Tesla, but this is just ugly. Sure, let's look at SPY. And as I had said earlier, everything is absolutely broken from here down. I tried to play an oversold bounce. Maybe they're going to get me here. Maybe I didn't hold on long enough. I didn't want to. I didn't want to get back yesterday. But you can see just how volatile it is down here at these levels, or when we start getting these big sell-off days, the bounces can be vicious, but the ranges can be vicious as well. Not sure what you want to see in SPY, other than what I would want to see is, like I just said, what does it have left to hang its hat on? Well, it's filled this gap right there. So, if we take that out going into the close, be careful. It heads back towards 500. It might want to test 500 again. I wouldn't want to stick around and be there for that test. But I really thought that if the buyers were here today, this is where the rubber met the road, right there. And I knew that. I knew, as I said, coming in here, I'm underwater now. I'm just going to put stops in and hope for a miracle. But I manage my risk. That's what's important to me. And now I've got pretty much all the risk back off the table, because we didn't get a vicious oversold bounce, which I was looking for. I would have been perfectly prepared to start selling, into the 5-day, into the 10-day, but market's just not going to give us that. And then, like I said, when we look over and see why, we see money is moving into the bonds again, 7-year. They're buying. And people are saying, well, maybe this is the desire where stocks sell off more, but interest rates do come down as a result of the bonds getting purchased. I don't know. Did that help, Gizmo? I don't know if you have any more questions about the SPY. That's kind of what I see. Palantir, for the most part, it's doing okay. Yeah, you could easily make a case that today this is as worse as it gets today, but I didn't want to stick around and see if this is as worse as it gets. That's enough for me in general. Relatively speaking, that was enough for me in the NASDAQ. Now, Palantir is holding up a little better than the rest, so it's got some relative strength. All right. Let's see, I'll be here another 5 minutes or so. Hopefully, okay, good. That helped. I'd watch that 500 level for sure. How about SEGY? All right. Pink sheet. That's what the Y means. This looks pretty much just like a direct copy of the NASDAQ with a lot of gaps. So it's very much underwater. It's really got nothing to hold it up now. It needs to get back 100 quickly, I would say. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about or look at? I'm losing my voice, quite honestly. They've been buying up companies. Okay. So they're a acquiring company. Mhm. I see a lot of red. These are my tickers, my main go-to tickers here. There's just nothing but red. So I'm okay with, like I said, giving it a stab yesterday to see if I could hang on. I feel like I played it as well as I could, managed the risk as well as I could. If they jump and go close on highs without me, well, then so be it. It's not the first time, won't be the last time. I'll have cash to play with tomorrow. All right, guys. Any other questions? Otherwise, I might head out a little early. I'll wait here. These little green wicks and the spies and Qs don't last long. Well, like I said, if I could leave you with something, the TLT and the IEF ETFs, they're going to continue to probably dictate. If they stay strong and continue to move higher, money will come out of stocks and back to bonds. It's just the way it was, and that's the way it'll be. All right, I am going to take off and save my voice, and I'll be back on Thursday for you guys. All right, thanks. Take it easy.